Mercedes introduced the W15 in the previous week, and it seems like there are a lot of changes that are easily spotted on the 2024 Challenger. However, with the RB20 going in a Brundtle direction, trying out something that Mercedes failed for the past 2 years, could the Silver Arrows be on the right path to bring the glory back in 2024? And more importantly, are Allison's statements regaling this year's championship battle being much closer ones we could take on a serious note? Obviously, the W15 has undergone a massive revolution, and almost every aerodynamic surface you see on the car has been changed for the better. The most obvious change happened at the front, where the front wing has received a new, bit controversial design, which will definitely see Allison having long talked to the FIA in elaborating on how you could have a main plane not being directly attached to the nose, but attached on by a discrete wire. We'll get to this later in the video, because it did stir the pot with Red Bull as well, as the Austrian team expressed high fears that this innovation not only poses an illegal threat to the rest of the grid, but could be one that will put Mercedes in a far bigger advantage than we could have hoped for. Apart from the main planes, the nose of the front wing has seen a bit more compacted version being implemented on the W15, as it now merges with the wing's second flap in what appears to be a desperate attempt at optimizing the downforce values of the car. Obviously, this is a huge step outside of Mercedes' comfort zone, and it could either bring them glory or doom. But, according to our son Wolf, the new aerodynamic surfaces are not to be messed with, and the team will exploit certain nuances within the 2022 regulations that are still in place until the beginning of the 2026 campaign. Mercedes has also taken a very unique approach when it comes to the upper-side impact spar, or shortly known as the cis fairing, which in the previous challenges has been flung forwards of the side pods and inlet to serve its own aerodynamic purpose. But now that this pad is gone, the cockpit has also undergone some changes as well, with Hamilton enjoying his wish being fulfilled with his last season with the Bracky-based squad. Now he and Russell will sit 100mm more to the rear of the car, and apart from this having a tremendous effect on the drivers having a much bigger feel on the rear end of the car, it also enables the team to apply changes to the chassis and the fuel tank. Mercedes has now narrowed the forward section of the chassis where it meets with the floor, resulting in an increase of the available volume in the forward portion of the underfloor. What this prompted the team to do was choose a very ambitious sidepod design, more traditional if you prefer it that way, something that has been tested and proven to work on the rest of the grid in the past couple of years, which is the P-shaped inlet. The new sidepod design now reaches forward in the lowermost section, while still providing ample room in the undercut section for air to be able to move through the rear of the car, as it has been extended rearwards to reach the downsloping section of the rear of the bodywork. Not everything has changed from 2023. The floor's edge, as well as the edge wing parts that have been used in the closing stages of 2023 are going to remain for the W15. But it's very likely that Mercedes will try to implement upgrades on them and not keep them in the same authentic form they were in the previous year. Just like Red Bull, the team will very likely implement a lot of changes to the car, and it would be the funniest thing if we saw them return to the zero-pod design from Japan onwards, following the path of Red Bull, who are very likely to implement their own version of what has been dubbed a failure from the Mercedes side in the past couple of years. But let's leave that to the experts to fix, and let's continue with all of the old, new characteristics of the car. Mercedes also invested a lot of trust in the down-sloping side pod bodywork, and apart from it being wide in the upper half, it now retains a gentle water slide for the team introduced with the B-spec version of the W14. Again, this is a part of the car that could undergo changes in the first half of the season, as the launch spec car is just the car with which Mercedes will hit the tracks in Bahrain. It's definitely not the one that we're going to keep for a longer period of time, unless they find some massive performance all of a sudden win it. Most importantly, Mercedes has adopted Red Bull's philosophy of having a push-rod rear suspension, something we could have already guessed from their customer teams like Aston Martin and Williams, because this is a part that they've been purchasing from the Silver Arrows, and they've presented their cars much earlier to the media. All in all, it's a total overhaul of the mechanical and aerodynamic packaging at the rear of the car, and while the team definitely had to do some trade-offs, it's all in the name of finding any gains that can be made aerodynamically, as the team hopes they will shut down any small mechanical inefficiencies. If the team manages to do so, then it's very likely that they will find more scope within the allowable volume boxes to implement a better design on the underfloor, diffuser, and upper floor surfaces. And this is something that's been further elaborated on by James Allison, who admitted that in this limited period, the team had to make sacrifices when it comes to developing certain areas of the car more compared to others. For example, the instability of the car was the #1 priority that the team had to fix, so a vast amount of money and resources went to the gearbox and the chassis of the car, and the rest didn't get the luxury to be worked on as much, with Allison nodding. A new chassis and gearbox was standard for each year, free budget cap. The latter usually forces you to choose, But there are teams like us who have opted to change both. There is no doubt that having a new outer casing of the gearbox and at the same time having a new chassis are two big projects that take part of our financial means. This means that in other parts of the car, we have not pushed as much development. Furthermore, Allison went on to emphasize what other parts of the car have been worked on, apart from these two very important aspects, in order to improve the stability and the corner handling. As the technical director continued, great attention was paid to improving the unpredictable rear axle of the previous axle. We have worked on this to try and create a car that is easier for the drivers. At the start of a corner, when you're hard on the brakes and cornering, the rear end needs to be solid. And then, as you approach the apex, the car should feel progressively more agile and eager to turn. We tried to do this in the new car. But let's get back to what seems to have bugged everybody's minds in the past couple of days, and that is the front wing of the W15. Mercedes has introduced a very cheeky front wing, but includes a fourth main plane that's not directly attached to the nose, but it uses a wire that connects the top flap to the nose, an innovation that the rest of the grid feels like kind of a loophole to reintroduce the benefits of a wide T50 vortex. This is something that the current technical regulations do not allow, because it has been previously used to direct airflow optimally across the car's underbody and therefore improve aerodynamic efficiency, but was banned in 2022. Of course, the engineers will always have this never-ending debate as to what is legal and what is considered an innovation. But considering the fact that this has the potential to change the way that the airflow works from the front of the car, it's safe to assume that the rest of the teams won't be sitting down and waiting to see how it all will pile out. This is something that Helmut Marko has spoken about. And when talking about this matter, the Austrian is afraid that Mercedes have found a special trick during the winter break, one that has the potential to mess a lot with the performance of the RB20. As he elaborated, "What we can say now is that our new car is an evolution of last year's car, and we've had the best package. If we eliminate the few weak points, not much should go wrong. But who knows, maybe a competitor has found a special trick during development." What does Allison have to say about the 2024 season's competitiveness in general? The technical director of Mercedes seems to believe that there's a genuine chance the W15 could compete up front with Red Bull and the rest of the grid if we are to look at certain data points, as he added, "If you look at last year, you see from the start of the season to the end of the season, although Red Bull's dominance was near complete and they didn't look vulnerable even to the last race of the year, this is a grid that is gradually compressing. All of the cars in Q1 were sort of squashed down within 1 second of each other, and that's not by coincidence. It's a trend that has happened from 2020, continued in 2023, and I think will continue to show itself in 2024, because the gains are getting more and more asymptotic. Therefore, in addition to us, I hope having worked well with designing and developing new Mercedes, my guess is it's going to be relatively busier near the top of the grid this time around than last. There will be a lot of other stuff that Mercedes would have to work on apart from the car being competitive, and that is the drivers' chemistry in their last season as teammates. Hamilton is the alpha male that we all know won't bend to any team orders. And with this in mind, the upgrades that will come in the second half of the season, which will likely be more prone to Russell, as he will mail a thing or two about them before his teammate, will definitely have the potential to disrupt the energy between them. The 7-time world champion will also be prohibited from visiting the factory from the summer break onwards, and if Mercedes manages to turn up with a championship-winning car, it would be interesting to see how much they're willing to sacrifice in order to give Hamilton everything he needs to win the 8th record-breaking championship before he finally sets sail in Ferrari. With this in mind, what do you think of the W15? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.